Welcome to the sixth and the final part of our Procedural Bridge Creation series in Blender 5.2. In the previous sections, we built the complete bridge structure using geometry nodes, starting from the main bridge shape, adding wooden planks, rope supports, vertical ropes, knot, zigzag rope pattern, and all the major procedural elements. Until now, our focus was mainly on creating the geometry and making sure the entire bridge is generated properly. In this final part, we are going to bring the bridge to life visually. We will start by solving an important Blender 5.2 workflow issue. When our geometry node setup is created from an empty object, we cannot directly create materials because the empty does not have any mesh data. So we will use a simple hidden mesh only as a material holder and then assign those materials back to our procedural bridge using the set material node. After that, we will create a realistic rope material using shader nodes. We will mix two brown shades, use wave texture to create rope-like line patterns, add noise variations for roughness, and finally add bump detail so that the rope does not look flat. Then we will move into the wooden plank material, where we will use image texture and generate UV coordinates inside geometry nodes. This will help the texture map properly onto the procedural planks, even though the bridge itself is being created from an empty object. By the end of this session, our bridge will no longer look like plain generated geometry. It will have proper rope detail, wooden texture, surface variation, and a much more finished look. So let us begin the final part and complete our procedural bridge. Let us start by launching Blender. I have Blender 5.2 shortcut already on the desktop. Double click to launch it. In our previous session, we were working on this bridge5.blend file. If you are continuing with me from the previous session, then you can launch this file and start working on it. If you have come to this session directly and if you doesn't have this bridge5.blend file, then in the YouTube video page or in the e-learning page, I have provided you a link for the Patreon page. If you come to this procedural geometry nodes in Blender Patreon page, and if you scroll down, I have provided you the link for this bridge5.blend file. Click on it, download it, and you can start working on it. I will open this bridge5.blend file. I will show you one bug that is present in this Blender 5.2 beta. Right now in Blender 5.2, you can start building your geometry node with an empty. However, now when it comes to adding material, I cannot add materials because this doesn't have any mesh data. When I am working on materials, I cannot directly create materials in geometry nodes. I have to create my materials in the shader node. If you come on the top left panel, I will change this from geometry node editor to shader editor, and this new button is disabled, and for this object, even in modifier, you doesn't see materials tab at all. The only workaround for this is either add the materials through script or I have to add a dummy mesh object only for the purpose of materials. So I will come into my 3D view, add, and in mesh, I will add a simple plane. This plane, I am using it only to generate materials. I will come into my outliner view, press F2. I will rename it as for_materials. Do not delete. But I does not want it in my scene. So I will hide it in viewport and I will disable it in renders. If these two buttons are not visible to you, then in the outliner right hand you have an arrow pointing downwards. If you click on it, you can enable all these options. I have the new button activated in my shader editor, and also in the modifier, I can see material tab. I am going to click new in my shader editor and I am going to create my new material. I am going to now call this as rope. The material starts with my principal BSDF shader. So you have one base color here. I will click on the base color and I am going to select orange color. You choose any color here. I am going to come into my 3D view and I am going to use this material preview. I have created this material rope, but I have not added it in my scene. Before I add it, I will go to File, choose Save As, and I will save my file as bridge6.blend and click on Save As. I will come to the left and I will change it from Shader Editor to Geometry Node Editor. Now I have to select the bridge in the outliner. Only then you are going to see this nodes that we created in our previous session. Now if you come and see in this list, I have one 0, bridge 3 and bridge 5. Now for this session, I will click on this new geometry node group button and I will call now this one as bridge 6. I have to now attach the created material. So here if you see, I have rope and knots, I have wooden planks, I have ropeway, pillars and lower rope zigzag. Now lower rope zigzag is coming directly through this ropeway. I want the material for ropeway. After this curve to mesh in the ropeway, I will directly come into the add, come into geometry, material, and here you have set material node. So I will add this set material node. So I added it after this curve to mesh in ropeway, and in the material, I am now going to choose the rope material. So immediately you can see my 4 rope and the lower twisted rope is attached with this material. However, my vertical ropes and the knots is not yet attached. I have to move up. You have this ropes and knots section. So it is coming through this join geometry. I will press Shift A and in search, I will search for set material and I will add it after this join geometry. I will come and select the rope material. So right now the materials are attached, but the materials doesn't really look like a rope. So I will just zoom in. I will just with shift middle press move closer and I am going to shift to this viewport shading option. I will have a better view of my rope here. If you take the reference image of a rope consists of lines running in between, and so to create these lines, I am going to use 2 shades of brown. So I will come down and on the left hand panel, I will change this from geometry node editor to shader editor. I have to select for materials do not delete. I will just zoom in. I am going to add a new node. So I will press Shift A and in search, I will search for a node mix. You have color, mix color. So I have to select this color, mix color. I will take the result and put it into the base color. For the first color here, the A color, I will click and I am going to select a dark brown color. I am using a hexadecimal code 49372B. If I press enter, so this is going to give me a dark brown color. I will select the B color. I will use the hexadecimal code 8E7037 and press enter. So I have a lighter brown color. How we can control these 2 colors by default is I will switch off this clamp factor, and if I drag, see, as I move towards the left, you have the A color now. If I move it to the right, you have the B color, and I can mix it in different ratios. However, what I need is, I need certain part of my area to have dark brown and certain part to have light brown. And this is determined by this factor. I will add another node here. I will press Shift A and in search, I will search for a node called as wave texture. Now in this wave texture, if you want to know exactly what this wave texture does, press Ctrl Shift and click on wave texture. And if you scroll out, this is the output of the wave texture where you have 2 colors, white and black in different patterns. Wherever I have the black color, there I will be seeing factor 0 color, which is A color, dark brown. And wherever I have white color, I will be seeing the second color. I am going to apply this wave texture to my factor in my color mix. Instead of color, I will directly take the factor from here and connect it to my RGB mix factor. And I am going to take principal BSDF output and connect it to my material output. Areas which were black is now dark brown and areas which were white is now light brown. Now let us tweak our wave textures values a little. So in scale, it is set to 5. I will change this scale to 2, and then in distortion, I will keep it something like 15. In these ropes, you can see the effect. You can see the lines running here. I now want to add some amount of roughness to it. You can see the roughness in principal BSDF here. I can control the roughness value, and instead of controlling it here, again I am going to use a texture. So I will press Shift A, and in search, I will search for noise texture, and I am going to take the factor output of my noise texture, connect it to my roughness. Still you are not seeing much of a difference. I also have to add a texture coordinate to it. So I will press Shift A, and in search, I will search for texture coordinate, and I will add this node. I will take my object and connect it to vector, and still you are not seeing much of the noise. To create a better noise, I have to make this noise texture output contrast. I can make it contrast by using color ramp to see what effect I will have for this noise text. Press Ctrl Shift and click on noise texture. So this is the noise texture that you are seeing, but I have to increase this contrast. So I will press Shift A, and in search, I will search for map range. I will take this output and connect it between factor and roughness. Set the minimum value to something like 0.3 and maximum to 0.6. To minimum, I will keep it at 0.4, and the maximum I will keep it at 0.6. If I also increase the scale here, see, I can make the scale a little more. So I will set a scale of 15. I will press Ctrl Shift and click on principal BSDF. So you are seeing a slight amount of that variation. I will also disable this normalize. I will now select all these textures and I will move it down. I have selected these 3 nodes. If I press M and mutate, see, this is the original effect, and if I press M back, see, this is the effect now. This rope will be in water. I have added some kind of this kind of reflection. To add bump, I am going to take the factorial value of my wave, and I am going to connect it to the normal of my principal BSDF. So I will take the wave texture factor, drag it and connect it to the normal. You are not seeing much of a difference because factor here that you are seeing is a black and white data, whereas normal you are seeing it as blue. This is a vector. So to convert my black and white data coming from wave texture into vector data, I use a node called bump. So if I press Shift A and in search, if I search for bump, I will now place the bump. I will take the factor data and connect it to my height, and I will take my normal data and connect it to the normal. The strength is set to 1, and the distance, if I make it 1 here, there is too much, so I will reduce the strength to something like 0.5. And now you can immediately see the bumpiness effect. So now if you zoom out, this appears as a perfect rope. We have successfully created our rope material. So now I will zoom out and see that it is properly organized, and then go to File and save it. Next, we are going to add our material to this wooden plank. To create this material, see that in the outliner for material, do not delete object selected. Come into shader panel, and you have here create new material button. Click on this, and I am now going to call this material as wood. In this wood material, I am going to select all the nodes that I have used except principal BSDF and material out. I will select all this and delete it. I want to attach this material to my wood plank. On the left hand side, I will come into the geometry node editor, and right now I am not seeing the geometry because in the outliner I have selected my mesh data. I have to come back to bridge, and in bridge you are seeing the nodes, and here you can see the output of my wooden plank is going out here. So I will press Shift A, and in search I will search for set material, and I will add it after this rotate instances. And if you zoom in, and here I am going to select wood. Just like last time, I will come on the left hand side, and from geometry node editor, I will change this to shader editor. I have to select for materials, do not delete. I see that the wood material is selected. For this lesson, I have provided you with some ready-made texture material. And to get this material, you can come into the YouTube video page or e-learning page, click on the Patreon link, and in the Patreon page, if you scroll down, I have provided you a file called bridgeassets.zip. Click on this to download it, select this bridge asset, cut it, come into the folder where you have all your bridge files, and here I will paste it. Right click and choose extract all to extract all the files, and once it is extracted, you have wood materials here. Now we are going to use it in our scene. So I will come back to Blender. Now with this principal BSDF selected, on your keyboard press Ctrl, Shift and T, and this will open File Explorer, and here come into the bridge assets wood material, select all these three and click on Add Principal Texture Setup. See, automatically, because I am using Node Wrangler, the three textures are automatically added. Albedo is connected to base color, wood rough is connected to roughness, and normal through the normal map is connected to the normal. We have applied the mapping. So this is the advantage of using Node Wrangler. I have added the material, but if you see, it is not correctly showing on my wooden plank. This is because we have created this mesh, and when we apply the material, if you already know the principles of how to apply the material, we have to unwrap its UV map. In case of models that we create manually, we can do it directly, but these models are created using nodes. We have to work out a way to unwrap and use the UV map. So we have a workaround for this, and the very first workaround we have to do it in our node. So I will come back to my bridge, and I will come back here in the panel, and from shader editor I will change it back to geometry node editor, and in geometry node editor first I will come here into wooden plank. I will just zoom in, and after all the instances are created, that is after this rotate instances before set material, I will press Shift A and I will call for a node realize instances. So it is going to realize all the instances into separate geometries. So I will connect it between rotate instances and set material. Now after realizing the instances, I am going to store the UV map value. I will press Shift A and I will call for stored named attribute, and here the type of attribute is 2D vector. This is UV map. UV map is a 2D vector. Instead of point, I am going to select face corners. Then I will come into the name and I am going to call this as UV map. UVM I will keep it capital, AP I will keep it small. I have to give the value of this stored name attribute, and this value I have to take it from my UV wrap position. So I will press Shift A and I will search for a node called as position. Position is a 3D vector. You have X, Y, Z, but I need only X and Y. After position, I will press Shift A and I will call for a node separate X, Y, Z. So I will take this position value and I will separate X, Y, Z. I will press Shift A and I will call for combine X, Y, Z. I am going to take only the X value and the Y value because this is a 2D value, and then I will take this output and connect it to the value. And as soon as I connect it to the value, you can immediately see object is applied with perfect texture. By doing this roundabout, we are able to apply the textures. Now the same thing I am also going to use for my ropes. I will select this realize instances, with Shift press select store named attribute, with Shift press combine XYZ, separate XYZ position. Press Shift D and duplicate it, and I will place it to the side. With middle mouse, I will pan it, and it is in this group wooden plank. To bring it out, I will press Alt plus P. This will be outside the group, and I am going to bring this entire set into my rope way. So I will come into my rope way, and I will drag everything into this frame. So when you see a white frame, it gets attached into this frame. I will drag it to the side. I will just move my set material to the side, and I will take the output of my set material and connect it to realize instances, and I will take this store named attribute and connect it to the geometry. I am not able to see the UV map here because in the material I have not added it. Come into the scene selection and select my hidden for materials do not delete. Come into the panel and come into the shader editor now. Now I am in the wood material. Change it to rope. The image we are using is this wave. So I have this wave texture. This is the 2D image. I have to apply mapping. I will press Shift A and in search, I will search for mapping, and I will take this mapping vector output and connect it to this wave texture. I will press Shift A and in search, I will search for UV map. And in this UV map name, I will precisely call this UV map, same name here, and I take this output and connect it to the vector. You can now see how rope is appearing. Instead of bands, I will use ring. I will scale it up a little, and distortion I will make it 0. And when I scale it up, see, you have a straight line coming, and you are going to see this as a rope. Once I have made the modification in this map, I will come back to bridge, and I will come back from shader editor to geometry editor. I select stored named attribute, combine XYZ, separate XYZ, position, and realize instances. Press Shift D and duplicate it. Press Alt P to bring it outside the group, and I will take it to my ropes and knots. So you have the ropes and knots here. So I will drag this inside my ropes and knots group, and then I will drag my set material to the side. Bring all these 5, bring it down. I will take the set material output here and connect it to the geometry of my realized instances. Then I will take stored named attribute and connect it to the geometry. The same UV map is calculated, and even in ropes, so you can see the vertical lines running like ropes. Okay, so now we have successfully created the material of a wooden plank. And one last thing that we are now left with is adding the material to these pillars. So I have to add a cement material. For this, first I have to create the material for my cement. I will again come into the outliner and select my for materials do not delete object. Come into my geometry node panel, and on the left hand side I will change it back to shader editor. I have create new material button here, and I will click it, and this is me going to make a copy of my rope material, and I am going to call this as cement. Now I will scroll down. I will select and delete all the nodes except principal BSDF and material output. So I will also select all the points below and delete it, and in base color I am going to set it to white. Press Shift A. And first I am going to add a noise texture, take its factor and connect it to my base color. However, I am not seeing any effect because I have not attached the material. I will come back to outliner and select the bridge. Here on the left hand side, I will come back to geometry node editor. If I just zoom out and if I scroll down, I have the pillar section at the bottom. I will press Shift A, and in search, I will search for set material. I will first drag it inside pillars and connect it to my instance on point. In the material, I have to select cement. You can see some kind of noise pattern created. I will come back in my outliner to for materials do not delete object, and I am going to change to shader editor. To control mapping, press Shift A, and first I am going to come and search for texture coordinate. I will add the texture coordinate node, connect object to vector here, and you can now see how the distribution has changed. To control this mapping, I will press Shift A and I will add utilities vector mapping in between this. Come into the scale. I select the scale values and set it to 0.5. I have just reduced the scale. I will slightly move this to the side. Come into the noise texture and I will set the scale to 4. Then I will press Shift A, and to add some contrastness, I will search for color ramp and I will add color ramp next to noise texture and before principal BSDF. I am going to select the black color and set this color to dark gray. For the white, I will set this color to light gray. I will pull this up and I will make it more contrast like this. I have a kind of cementish look. I had one noise texture already added here, and now I will press Shift D and duplicate it and bring it down, and I will take the output from my mapping vector and connect to this vector. And to test the effect of this new noise texture, I will press Ctrl Shift and click on this. I am going to scale this to 60. So you have more of the noise like this, and I am going to use this to create a bump map. To make it more contrast, I will press Shift A and in search. This time, instead of color ramp, I will use the map range. I will add it after this noise texture. From minimum value, I will set it to 0.5. Maximum value, set it to something like 0.7. And now you have a very dark pattern created. I want to add a color mixer. So I will move material output to the side and principal BSDF also to the side. So now I will press Shift A and in search, I will search for mix and I will take mix color, select this and I will put it next to this color ramp. The actual color is coming from A. I will select principal BSDF and press Ctrl Shift and click it. So that now I am seeing the original cement color. And for B color, I select a dark tint. I will take this second noise texture and the result, I will take it and connect it to the factor. You have some kind of patch structure. I can also add a level of bump here from this map range, that is this second noise texture and map range. I am going to take this result and connect it to the normal. This is a grayscale and this is vector, and to convert it, I will press Shift A and in search, I will search for the bump map, put the bump map and the map range. I am going to take it from here and connect it to height, and I take the normal and connect it to the normal, and I will change the distance value to 1. So now you are seeing some kind of cement patches here. Strength is too much. I will reduce the strength to some 0.4. So it appears as a cement patch. Let us also add some roughness to it. I will press Shift A and in search, I will search for one more noise texture and I will put this noise texture below, and I will press Ctrl space and make it full screen. Take this mapping and connect it to third noise texture. Just to test the effect, I will press Ctrl Shift and click on this noise texture and press Ctrl space. I will set the scale of this to 7.5 and I will increase the roughness a little to around 0.8. I will press Shift A and in search, I will search for map range. To increase the contrastness, I will connect it, and minimum I will change it to 0.5 and maximum I am going to change it to 0.6. I am going to take this output now and I am going to come into my principal BSDF. I will take this output and I am going to connect it to the roughness. Ctrl Shift and click on principal BSDF. You have a kind of little shininess on all these parts over here. So with this, our entire model is now ready. So if I select the bridge and in the parameters, you can see I can swing it in any shape. I can change the curvature. I can change the width. I can change the height. I can change the rope thickness. I can change it. So I will set the curvature back to -3 and -3 and bridge width to 4, bridge height to 4 and rope thickness to 0.1. I will come to file and I am now going to save this file, and this concludes our project of building this parametric modeling. As you did it in the previous session for Rubik Cube, you can come into the scripting, go to text open, and I have shared you identify.py. Select it and open it, enter your roll number, change this to your name, and then go into text and choose register and go to file, save it and share it to me. So with this, you have successfully completed our parametric bridge modeling.